Well, ow! Oh, hi! You caught me trying to manufacture a dong bag big enough for my big old Johnson. Speaking of reproductive rights, let's talk about the time Spider-Man taught sex education.
Comic tropes. Comic tropes.
Hello, welcome to Comic Tropes. I'm your host, Chris. Is there a superhero out there that has a worse sex life than Spider-Man? Now, I'm not talking about a love life. Every superhero has drama there. I'm talking specifically about all the terrible things that have happened to Peter Parker regarding sex. The story I'm about to review today is from 1976, and it simply has Spider-Man obligated to teach some horny teenagers about sex. That's not so bad. But after that, oh my God, things got so much worse. In 1984, Spider-Man tells a kid who has a pervy babysitter about the time that he made a friend named Skip Westcott, and how Skip then went on to molest him, and it took him a long time to tell his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. In 1996, Spidey and his wife Mary Jane were going to have a baby, but it was stillborn. In 2004, in the infamous Sins Past storyline, we learned that his first serious girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, had actually had sex with his archenemy, the Green Goblin, and secretly given birth to twins that grew up to hate him. And then, in 2006, there was the future set story Spider-Man Reign, where Spider-Man cries to the corpse of his late wife that he had not only radioactive blood, but that all of his fluids were radioactive, so loving him gave her cancer. Lovely! I'm surprised we haven't had a story yet where Doc Ock tries to punch Spider-Man's dick off. Listen, the story we're going to review today is from slightly more innocent times. It was a comic made by Marvel Comics in conjunction with Planned Parenthood. I think their hearts were in the right place, but the message itself is bonkers. Let's get into it. The story is called The Amazing Spider-Man vs. the Prodigy, and it has a surprisingly bland cover. It simply has Spider-Man clinging to a helicopter and telling us sort of a joke, saying, "This hardly contributes to my jet-setter image, but I have to know where this bird is headed." It's just all a little bland, there's no villains aiming a gun outside the helicopter. There's no innocent damsel in distress about to fall out of the helicopter. It's just Spider-Man wondering aloud to us where the helicopter's going. Well, if it's that exciting for you, Spider-Man, just head on over to the local airport and you can read the arrivals and departure times. Really exciting stuff. One awesome thing is looking at the credits here. This issue is illustrated by the great Ross Andru. He was definitely a solid Spider-Man artist. He worked on The Amazing Spider-Man. It's written by someone named Anne Robinson. The writer's name, Anne Robinson, that might not be as familiar, and it really shouldn't be. She wasn't a comic book writer, really. Instead, she worked behind the scenes on something like sales. So I guess she just happened to be sort of in the loop of networking between Planned Parenthood and Marvel and ended up getting to be the writer of this story. She has an interesting connection later on. The caption tells us that it's a balmy New York evening. Some people like to take it easy on a balmy summer evening in New York, sip a little yoo-hoo. Yoo-hoo. Engage in some friendly chit-chat, but not our favorite wall crawler. So Spider-Man is climbing the Pan Am building to get some air, escape the heat, and the title is called Pull of the Prodigy. The Pan Am building, well, that dates it. Pan Am in 1976, yeah, they were on top of the world. And of course that building still exists, but it's not called the Pan Am building anymore. Pan Am was the first commercial airline jet. They would be humongous in the 70s, but they ceased operations back in 1991, so that's almost 30 years at this point. Yeah, kind of a dated reference. Spider-Man gets to the top of the building and starts bragging about how his web shooters allow him to get as far off the ground as he likes, and then he says, "Dr. J, eat your heart out." Why he's smack talking on the great Dr. Julius Erving, I have no idea. He's not even talking to anyone, so this is a little weird. Sometimes we see Spider-Man's thought balloons and he's making jokes that apparently amuse himself, but usually in the comics he isn't just saying jokes to nobody. Not the case here. My, what have we here? That's an ordinary helicopter, Spider-Man. A bunch of teenagers are getting into the helicopter, and for some reason Spider-Man finds this extremely strange. He says, I wonder where this motley crew is off to. They hardly look like they have the bread to travel first class. Spider-Man often talks some smack, but this is very judgmental Spider-Man. He's talking smack about Dr. J. He's talking about how these kids aren't dressed nice enough to go on a helicopter. Very judgmental Spider-Man. Spider-Man keeps talking to himself mere feet away from all the teenagers boarding the helicopter and wonders aloud why they would be boarding it this time of night, saying they should be home listening to their new Henry Gross albums. Henry Gross? The guy from Sha Na Na that had one hit song? Why would this reference be used? Oh, maybe because the writer, Ann Robinson, was married to Tommy West, a record producer who produced Henry Gross's albums? Classy move there, Ann, using Planned Parenthood's advertising money to advertise for your husband's business. We cut to a mansion out in the mountains. A pair of security guards is talking to each other and they say, this should be the next bunch of kids. So far, the boss has recruited and robotized kids all over the country. His master plan is almost completed. Inside, we see who the boss is. He's a stereotypical green alien. He's holding a rubber mask and saying, this pale skin makes me nauseous. I wouldn't be an earthling for all the brain power on Intellectia. That should do it. A few more hours and I should have the youth of this country well under control. And he has a nice little note to himself saying, Galactic Glory. You always want a villain who can't remember his plan unless he posts it in his mirror. Galactic Glory. Got it. Right. The alien, now in his human disguise, talks to himself about how he'll be on television tonight and how he'll hypnotize everyone with his magnetic monotone. And then a little asterisk gives us an editor's note that says, the Prodigy's voice took on its special magnetic powers when the rocket ship coming from his native planet, Intellectia, in the Andromeda Galaxy, passed through the Earth's ionosphere. Because of weak deflector shields, his vocal cords were exposed to intense heat and radiation. On Earth, his voice draws people to him like a vacuum cleaner. Please note that inappropriate apostrophe after shields. Shields is just plural, it's not possessive. That's right, it says that this guy's spaceship didn't have good enough radiation shields and it gave him superpowers. I guess that lines up with pretty much everybody else in 1960s Marvel. They were all getting superpowers from radiation as compared to killing their wives. Spider-Man wonders aloud whether he should follow this suspicious helicopter, and then of course he just does. He says to himself, if I can just form a ladder here, I can climb up to the base of this 20th century bird. My procrastination might give me a good case of whiplash this time. Now that's a thought. Wonder if I could sue. Feel free to ask your friend Matt Murdock, Daredevil, but no, you definitely couldn't. Now we see the alien talking to students set up in a classroom, and he's saying, remember all those people who tell you don't do it. Don't get into heavy stuff. They just try to scare you into thinking it's easy to get pregnant. But I say, how else can you prove you're a man? How else are you going to get a man? Anyway, everybody does it, so how can it harm you? All that jazz about responsibility and waiting till you're older, that's just to keep you from having a good time. This time Spider-Man doesn't say it aloud. He thinks to himself, what jive stuff this turkey hands out. He's really out to get kids. Nothing wrong with being in love or having babies, but there's gotta be responsibility. Imagine a baby in my life. Oh, wish we could, Spidey. Some of the kids politely object to the alien's lecture, asking about if this really does make sense, and he comes back with, pregnancy's good for you, helps your hormones, even clears up acne, and the best time to have babies is when you're young enough to enjoy them. If this guy can hypnotize people and he wants babies for labor, why not just cut out the middleman and hypnotize these kids and just make them laborers? Spider-Man easily figures out the plan, saying he wants them to be baby machines, changing diapers, going nowhere in dead-end jobs, sitting home every night trying to find the time and money to go out to a movie or buzz out to the burger stand. Spider-Man's message: kids will ruin your life.
And don't worry, some folks might come down on you, but you have to trust me. Believe me, and you'll be safe and have everything you need and want without a worry in the world. Your babies won't be a burden. They'll be brought up by experts. After all, they're important.
I like that this alien has the power to hypnotize people with his voice, and yet he's still taking up his valuable time trying to convince them. He's like trying to argue the case, like,
oh, it'll be lots of fun. You don't need to worry about those adults trying to keep you from having fun.
well, you know what? Why not just tell them to bang? Maybe it's because it's hard to believe a guy in platform shoes like that and bell bottoms that wide. It ruins his credibility just a little bit. Galloping guacamole. Nope, this is bigger than I thought. That dastardly dude's got a national scheme in the works to rip off young people. I've got to do something fast. While Spider-Man tries to come up with a plan, he's noticed by the security, so he flips to the edge of the house and says, maybe I can get past that goon by posing as a gargoyle. Who do you think you're fooling, Nutsy? Gargoyles are weird, but I never seen one to compare with you. What an outfit. That was an exceptionally terrible plan. Spider-Man webs up the guards. We cut to back inside the mansion where the alien has an entire television crew for reasons, but Spider-Man jumps through the window to break it all up. The alien throws some awkward karate kicks. Spider-Man just grabs him and tells the cameras to come in for a close-up, and he just guesses that this guy's an alien and rips his face right off. That all could have gone a lot worse if Spidey had guessed wrong and this guy was just, say, a human being with a mutant power.
Just listen to me for a minute.
Not in your life, Saucer Man. Your voice is a lethal weapon and my webbing will make a dandy gag. The alien's about to hit Spider-Man with some sort of flimsy piece of cardboard, so Spider-Man shoots webbing down his throat. In any other comic, that might come across okay. In a comic about birth control and sex, it comes across as weirdly sexual that Spider-Man has to stop the villain by shooting his webbing down his throat. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. As the alien lies dying, choking to death on the ground, Spider-Man says, "So ends the pernicious power of the Prodigy." The caption box told us this guy's name was the Prodigy, but he himself never introduced himself as the Prodigy to anyone. How did Spider-Man know this guy's name? How did he know that he was an alien? It's kind of like Spider-Man just got access to the script for this issue. He's like, let's just speed things up. Yeah, you're an alien. Your name is the Prodigy. Got it. Here's some webbing down your throat. Let's go. And that's the end of the story, but we do get some interesting facts in a fact sheet on the next page. Some of them are a little weird and a little dated. For instance, masturbation won't make you insane or harm you in any other way. Unless you do it like the way my friend Paul does. We're all worried about him. Doctors are both men and women, and so are nurses. Dropping out of school at an early age usually leads to a dead-end job. Hey, why stop there? Feel free to list for us what those dead-end jobs are. Let's get really judgmental, both at the beginning and end of this story. So there you have it. Spider-Man versus the Prodigy. Not great, but also, honestly, not the worst. There were tons of Spider-Man public service announcement comics over the years. I know that there was Spider-Man teaming up with Storm and Power Man to battle smoking. There was a comic about Spider-Man teaching you that you should brush your teeth. That was the first comic I actually ever got about Spider-Man. It was in my dentist's office, and it was about the Green Goblin trying to steal a laser drill from Spider-Man's dentist. Not a great story, But to me at the time, it was new, it got me interested, and it made me brush my teeth. No, can't say that it influenced me much there because I've never brushed my teeth. I think it's a total scam by the Illuminati. That's just what I believe. Hopefully now you believe the same. Okay, I'm just kidding. But yeah, the public service announcement comics, they're always good for a laugh. They date themselves very quickly, but their heart's in the right place. Anyway, speaking of heart in the right place, that's a terrible segue, but I'm going to go with it. Let's take a look at the fan art that came in this week. Jose Lucio rendered me in pixel art as Mega Comic Tropes Man. I love it. Check out more of Jose's work on his website. This artwork, featuring me and Infotron back-to-back and back in action, is by Nico Pawlowski. Artist Vilal Pando returns because he says he wants to win a Gachapon prize here. So he created me as Dr. Manhattan. Be sure to check out his Instagram. Carson G sent in 2 pieces of graphic art this week. The first is a cool take on the show's logo, and the second is me as a Funko Pop, something I'm sure all of you out there want. Forge Grassinger returns for the 2nd episode in a row with an illustration of myself as Joker. Animator Nick Fulfaro illustrated the cutest version of me I've ever seen. You can see more of Nick's work at his links. This cool art came from artist Gavin, who says he's a big fan of the show, thank you, and also Todd McFarlane. William Mello drew this up while he watched my episode on Doomsday Clock. He's included his Instagram if you'd like to see more. Artist Kyo Oniro has me trying on Constantine's jacket and correcting my pronunciation of his name. Finally, Justin Muse provides this homage to the famous splash page in Amazing Spider-Man number 50, where I've given up on Infotron. Thank you for so much gorgeous fan art. It's always exciting for me to see it. I'm always happy to share any fan art that you send in as long as it has something to do with comic tropes. You can just send it to this email address, comictropes@gmail.com, and then I'm going to make a slight adjustment. I'm going to draw a winner out of every 10 entries I get. So every time I get 10 entries, I'm going to draw a winner out of the ball hopper, and I'll get you a Gachapon prize. Because some weeks it's just 1 or 2, some weeks it's 20. But I need to sort of balance it out a little because I'm way behind on mailing these out. The Gachapon come out of the Gacha Pony machine that was donated by Lunar Shine Store. So thank you very much for that. All right, we've got 10 entrants. Let's spin the ball hopper. Finally, we've got a bunch of balls jostling around in there. We're gonna open this up. And the winner is number 5. Number 5, that'll be this artwork. So thank you very much, everybody that contributed. And let's take a quick look at what you got for a prize. By the way, guys, I know that some of the episodes have sort of been coming out slightly slower than usual. Let me speak to that. We'll just see what you got for a prize here real quick. All right, hold on. Oh, very cool. All right, gonna be hard to like focus if I hold it too close, but this is a stormtrooper that will just hang on the edge of your desk. There were a bunch of Star Wars Gachapon prizes that I got that like all had something that could be done on the desk, like holding a tape dispenser or clipping onto a pen. This one hangs on the edge of a desk. So I will send that your way. And I'm working on catching up on sending out those Gachapon prizes that I know a lot of you have been waiting months for. So sorry about that. Short story, I've been pretty depressed lately. I posted a little bit about this in social media. I haven't really mentioned it in the video, but you know, some of it is seasonal. I've always battled depression, and this season is especially hard. I also lost one of my cats, and I've had her for forever, since she was a baby, and I don't know, she was my friend, you know, and I'm just pretty down, but don't worry, I am taking care of myself. You know, I'm doing I'm keeping busy with work, I'm keeping busy with this show, I'm socializing with my friends, I'm trying to eat right, get exercise, you know, I am taking care of myself, but I can't lie and say that I'm totally okay. I've been very sapped for energy. It's tough. You know, a lot of you have reached out and said that you suffer from depression as well. take care of yourselves. I'm doing my best to take care of myself. I've got some great episodes planned. I'm really excited to get these episodes made. It's just when it comes to the actual production, it's been a real challenge lately. It's been a real challenge. I'm doing my best. One thing that also contributed to some of my depression was specific to this show. It was going really, really well throughout 2019. This show was building and building, and I'm just so grateful to everybody out there that just, watches. Some of you have supported me on Patreon or donated a tip on coffee. That's amazing. But even just, hitting like or subscribe helps this channel a lot, and it was growing. And I really thought that there was a real chance that I would hit 100,000 subscribers, and the income that I was seeing was such that I thought that I could potentially do this full time, in which case I'd be able to create a lot more content and spend more time, in the editing and research phases. It was very exciting. All of a sudden, November forward, the amount that I was pulling in crashed. It's less than a third of what I was pulling in. I still want to do the show. It was disappointing to sort of see this progression over 3 years or so, building, and thinking that I was just about to pull the trigger on thinking of doing this full time. Just not going to happen right now. So I'm just trying to speak to you guys and give you a heads up on where I'm at. So I'm sorry some of the episodes have been, a few days late sometimes. I'm going to work on catching up. And I just appreciate that you've all been with me so far. So I've got some really cool episodes coming up in the near future. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to take a look at some of the other episodes I've got. Anyway, until next time, keep reading comics.